The Great Debate is an opportunity for New Mexicans to ask their questions to the three New Mexico gubernatorial candidates. This series of events was formed by We the People of New Mexico. I'm Elijah Gallardo, and I'm going to be the moderator for the day. I'm here representing Standing Tall United for Freedom, or STUF. And let's see, who have moderated and interviewed candidates before the primary elections. Due to the fact that two of the candidates did not show up to this event, the normal rules will not apply. We have with us today the Libertarian candidate, Mrs. Bedonie, and she will be allowed all the time she needs to answer the questions submitted by the people. We can get started now. Okay. So the question number one is, do you believe the size of government in New Mexico is too big, and why?
Yes, I believe that we are top heavy, and when you look at the budget, we are taking off the top a huge amount. I think about maybe 31% that we were looking at was mostly just the salary. And knowing that we have so many problems in New Mexico, I don't think we're getting it done. So I really think that we are top heavy government. The bureaucracy is huge. And when I get into the seat, I want to go into these departments to make sure I kind of know where we're dropping the ball. If you have files stacked on your office floor to the ceiling, we need to know exactly why, and why kids, especially in CYDF and other departments, are falling through the cracks, why our roads are crumbling, why people are not getting the job done. I think we're top heavy, not just with over employment, but also the fact that we don't put out the work effort in accordance per person. So we're going to look at this, and that's probably my first 100 days in office is to evaluate this, to literally see how much money we're throwing out the window to people who don't want to work. But then essentially people are not effective. Because I believe in social programs as well as that New Mexico sustains, you should be working yourself out of a job. The fact that we are perpetual and we just keep throwing money at it and it just keeps it's a revolving door, that we're not even stopping the homeless, and so this is where we're at. So yeah, I do think that we're top heavy, and it's not really working for New Mexico at all.
Let's see. Okay, in New Mexico, we are constantly being told that we are running out of water. Is that something we should be concerned about? Why, and why or why not?
So we have studies, and we've also done a lot of research on our water problems here in New Mexico. One thing is we've given away our water rights on the east side to Texas, even before we were born, and then on the west side to Arizona, even before our time. So we are in a very strict water crisis, and we're losing our water, even though right now it's raining a lot, but our vegetation and the fires, it's not holding it together, so it's just running, and the water rights are picking up on the Arizona side and Texas, so we're not even retaining this water. But we're looking at Harriet Hageman out of Wyoming and the water rights that she's fighting for, because those come to the upper states. And so that's where we have water rights from Wyoming, because water flows south. The lower states are in demand. That's Nevada, Arizona, and California. They're the ones that are sucking us dry. But we are the upper states that have water rights that we aren't even enacting, or we're not even in the game. We're not even trying to retain that. Also, the water, when you're driving through the vegetation across New Mexico, on the northern part is the Russian olive. Those drink between, I think, 20 to 30 gallons per day per tree. And so they're sucking our lakes dry. We have a lake bed right where I live in Navajo, New Mexico, and it's completely filled with Russian olives. It's supposed to be a lake, but it looks like a forest that's been flooded, and all it does is just drink the water. And when you go down through the bosque and you look at all the vegetation that has been allowed to grow wild, that is also water that's being sucked up by these trees. Not the good stuff, but the ones that are, they call it noxious weeds. And when it gets down south, there's not a lot of water that we're looking at. So even for it to absorb into our water tables, we were having difficulty. So there's different plans that we have been looking at. One is way in Mississippi, Arkansas. They are getting hit with environmentalists, and this is really interesting. They are being told that because their areas are flooding and they're letting it dump into the Mississippi River, that now the water that's running into the ocean is now impacting the saltwater wildlife. So they're getting in trouble. So they told them, you need to dam up your water and you have to figure out this problem. So they have an overabundance of water and they're being flooded out, which is, completely interesting to us because we need water. I've talked to Arizona and some of the candidates who are working on a project with other senators, and they're going to run a pipeline from Mississippi across the United States. If they can move oil, they can definitely move water. And they're going to tap into Arizona, then to Nevada and California, but they're going to completely bypass New Mexico. We are not even in the negotiations of this. If we can do that, then we can bring water that would actually dump from the northern part of the state and be able to run down so we can actually replenish some of our water resources. Another thing is that we found out that underneath our state, that we are very close to the ocean. I don't know how this works, we're still getting the data in, but they said that we can actually tap the ocean from our own state because the fracking that's happening with oil and gas is hitting pockets of water. So we're looking at the desalinization and how much it costs. So I've been looking and researching Israel consistently because they have figured out a way to make their country very lush and lucrative with water, and their agriculture is just booming. So this is something that we're looking at. So we have about 4 or 5 different researching projects that we haven't completed yet, but we know what's happening. And so the water is a big issue, but we have the solutions for it and we're ready to move forward with that one anyway.
What is the primary role of the governor of the state?
The primary role of the governor is to make sure, I guess it's checks and balances, the legislation, the judicial system, and the executive branch. We are the ones that sign laws into, legislation into law. We have to read through it to make sure that legislation isn't, correctively moving things in to injure the people. That's the first thing we do, is to make sure that legislation is working for the people and to also hold them accountable within the Constitution of New Mexico and also the United States. The next role is to make sure that they are a leader in the fact that they will save their state, using the 10th Amendment to make sure that the federal government does not overreach, and they're going to be able to work with the President of the United States and also other states and other governors to ensure, like we just talked about the water rights, to ensure our safety and peace and also our freedoms and liberties. The governor is not supposed to be a tyrant. A governor is not supposed to be running a government that's in business for itself. So my duty would be to restrict the government from going into business for itself. So we need to make sure that the people have prosperity and not the government. So the governor's role in this is to make sure checks and balances happen accordingly in accordance with the Constitution.
The next question is, what lessons do you think we learned from 2020 and the pandemic?
That our government is twisted, especially the federal government, and it's rampant and it's a runaway train. We have to dismantle the federal government piece by piece because the FBI, we just seen what they did to us, the information that they withhold in accordance with what party controls them. We've looked at the corruption across the entire United States, even at the FDA, the CDC, the contradictions that they were issuing, so then we know that we can't trust them any longer. We also learned that our medical system isn't perfect. We also know that they control protocol that can actually injure us and potentially kill us. We also learned that our government is not there to work for us. We have to stand up on our 2 feet, and we have to make sure that we stand on the Constitution and we continue to fight for our liberties and our freedom, because they are coming for us. And this is what I've been saying, that your reservation is being built around you by policy that they've already instituted on Indian country. And I can't say this enough. 2020 has given us all the information we need to ensure that we know that our government is not on our side. We have to rise, and we the people have to stop this by taking seats. But we have, rhinos and people who don't work for the people but work for the government, and it's a machine, and we have to stop it. So what we learned in 2020 is that government is not here for us. When the government says they're here to help, that's when it's over. So we really need to understand this and tell everybody that we know, in every laundromat, every gas station, every grocery store, that the government is not here to save us. And as a Navajo woman, I will tell you that the government will never guarantee your safety or your prosperity or your peace.
Okay, so let's see. How do you feel about the oil and gas industry here in New Mexico?
The oil and gas industry is, I think it's on its last leg. if we don't do anything to save it. They are a very intricate and precious part of our economy, and if we don't take care of it, we will be poor for a very long time. They're the only one that are in place that can help us reignite, and they're the actual stepping stone we need to prosperity. But we need to not just look at it as sucking them dry and using them. We need to use them as a almost an investment type thing, so that we can move forward in our economy to create jobs. But oil and gas is huge. It moves New Mexico from our shipping to our service industry to our construction industry. You know, every industry you can possibly think of needs the muscle of petroleum, the muscle to move our diesel engines and our lives. Because being a small business owner in the construction industry, we need our diesel trucks. We need to be able to haul pipe and move. Even me being a water hauler, we have to use our diesel to pull water because it's heavy. We have to haul it an hour and a half twice a week. And we need our petroleum and gas. It's in everything. And if you look around in your home and you remove everything that came to you on a truck, on tires, inside a petroleum-based industry, you will be sitting on the ground because everything came to you was brought to you by petroleum. And now the most heartbreaking thing, I did a video yesterday or the day before, and I realized that most of the big contributors of oil and gas literally contributed to Mark Ronchetti, who is not for oil and gas. He said we need to replace it with renewables. Solar panels are not going to bring you what you need to Walmart. Neither is the wind turbines, but there is a place for them. I am about the diversity of energy, but it cannot replace the muscle of petroleum. So oil and gas, we are fighting for you because you know what? We have brothers out there in the oil fields, we have husbands, uncles, and they're out there, even women. And we know what we need, but our roads are crumbling. Without oil and gas, we're going to be in pothole city. You know, pothole the whole state. It should be the new national theme, is that we are in potholes, but then we don't have oil and gas to really lay it down because the roads are literally oiling. It's a controlled oil spill. It's what we need. And it's sad to say that people don't understand it, but you can't replace something if you don't have something of equal power and muscle to do it.